It's the grim dark future of 2025 and games are getting pretty expensive. Recently Microsoft pushed Doom the Dark Ages out for $70. Quite a high asking price considering it's a short game. And bear in mind, over here in Britain, that costs £70, which converts to $94 US.
Payment required.
But after Nintendo pushed Mario Kart World out for an even higher recommended retail price of $80, Microsoft have followed suit and set the price of the upcoming Outerworlds 2 at $80. Kind of ironic that one of the core themes of the game is capitalism.
An adventure made for capitalism by capitalism.
We've got two camps of opinions. I see people in favour of this price hike defending it, and there's those that prefer cheaper games. I'm definitely against games becoming more expensive.
Celebrate the beauty of capitalism by pre-ordering today.
Big argument I see in favour of this huge price hike is inflation, and it would be correct that game prices should rise, along with inflation and development costs rising. But here's the thing, people forgot that game prices have already increased dramatically. I'm not entirely talking about that initial price sticker on a game box. When you buy a game, you're charged more for deluxe, ultimate, or gold editions. Make sure you pick up that season pass or future DLC bundle. No idea what you're paying for, and it might be terrible like Starfield's Shattered Space. If you don't cough up the extra cash, you can't start playing till up to a week later than the premium players. You're a second-class gamer. I hate advanced access. In-game cash shops and microtransactions make millions. Some cosmetics alone are more expensive than an $80 game. Don't forget that across all three consoles, you've now got to pay a subscription fee to play the games you've bought online. Not to mention when you used to buy a game, you bought a full complete game. Things weren't held back for DLC. There were no day one patches or just games launching unfinished. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. It was so broken at launch, Sony took it off the PlayStation Store. You used to buy a finished game. Well, 99% of the time.
Amen to that.
So personally, I disagree. I believe games are already way too expensive with all these extra bits and problems they come with. But what can you do? Well, what you could do if you're a big fan of RPGs, consider subbing to Peter Bytes or liking the video for more content like this. Cover lots of RPGs, you might like my Final Fantasy series, where I'm replaying them all and ranking them against each other as I go. Thank you.
Let's get down to business.
Well, it turns out Borderlands 4 was planned to launch for $80. But after a bit of a backlash, Gearbox recently announced that they've decided to drop the launch price to $70. I think they'll definitely sell more copies at launch, but personally I think $70 is still quite a lot for Borderlands, but I'll take it as a win. Now, people around the world have had different experiences. For me, growing up, brand new games never really went over £40. Future generations swapping to cheaper DVD media helped keep the prices stabilised.
Awesome!
Then maybe around the PS4 and Xbox One era, big games launched closer to £50.
You better be worth the money, every last gil.
Thing is, those were the recommended retail prices. Only the really expensive stores would sell launch games at that price. There were plenty of other game stores that would sell these launch games significantly cheaper. But thing is, being a kid not having that much money, I'd buy lots of second-hand games on the real cheap, and me and my friends would lend each other games, which is definitely not as much of a thing anymore. I want to talk about Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass because I think it's pretty fantastic value for money for the most part. I think growing up, something like this would have been really good for me or someone on a budget. I can't help but feel Microsoft raising the price of games is all a big ploy to push gamers into Game Pass subscriptions instead, where they can play from their selection of games, including these $70 to $80 games like Doom the Dark Ages, soon to be Outerworlds 2, and Avowed.
No shit!
While I think Game Pass is kind of a fantastic service, I'd still rather own a physical copy or digital Steam copy. I guess you barely own a digital copy, it's more like renting a license. But every now and then I do put Game Pass on for a month, and for about $10 I'll blast through at least $200 worth of games. Thing is, with a subscription service like this, Microsoft are kinda counting on you staying subscribed. You'll get lots of players who subscribe and either forget about it, or they're too lazy to unsubscribe. It's the same with all subscription services. These companies will make tons of money for doing nothing when you don't use their service. Personally, I'll just put these services on for a month or so when I need them and turn them off. I'm kind of breaking the system, I guess. They'd probably lose money from players like me. But I think Microsoft pricing a game so high is almost a psychological pricing tactic to push people into subscribing to Game Pass instead. Make people feel smart they took the initiative to save so much money and play it on Game Pass instead. Then they forget to turn off their subscription, or they just stick with it, they're then locked in.
It's an opportunity to make millions.
So Outerworlds 2 is going to be $80, a pretty big price jump from the same developers who gave us Avowed earlier this year. Avowed is very similar but fantasy themed. Thing is, Avowed launched for $70, which was still a really high price. I reviewed it, it was decent, but I don't think it's worth a $70 price tag. So launching Outerworlds 2, a very similar game a few months later, but yanking up the price another $10, that seems extreme.
Even I can see that's a bad idea.
I'm planning on playing and reviewing Outerworlds 2, and I always factor the price of a game into my recommendation and review score. I think this is something all reviewers should do. I'm going to review Outerworlds 2 as fairly as I possibly can, but I 100% will be factoring in its $80 price tag. And I'm skeptical it's going to live up to the price, but we will see. I feel bad for the Outerworlds 2 developers, Obsidian Entertainment. Recently, their director claimed that the high price tag was out of their hands, and it was Xbox/Microsoft's decision, being that they do own Obsidian Entertainment now.
Another shit atop the pile then.
A lot of games that are going for the big price tags come from AAA Game Studios. Microsoft, Ubisoft, PlayStation, Nintendo, and it's a mixed bag. Some of them are really good and actually worth the price tag, but there's lots of AAA repetitive generic stuff in the games industry. When a game is big, it doesn't necessarily mean it's worth $80, with bloated, recycled open world content. Personally, I think smaller scale games like single or AA or indie games often offer much better value for money. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is incredible, half the price with a much smaller team behind it, albeit with some contracting, but still a fraction of the size of the numbers behind these AAA games.
Exactly.
Microsoft just released Doom: The Dark Ages. I played it on Game Pass, thought it was good and it was different, but not as good as Doom Eternal though. That was £70 and $70. I wouldn't have liked to have paid that for that 15-hour campaign. Then again, we've got Nintendo doing it too, and they don't have a Game Pass. Honestly, I'd love to own a Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, but it's all pretty expensive at the minute. So, $80 games suck. I'm glad Borderlands 4 got such a big backlash that they decided to drop the price, and Game Pass can be a good alternative. I just put Game Pass on for a month at a time when I need it. Like I said, I am strongly against the $80 price tag. I think games are already more expensive through all the extra bits and problems that they come with these days, like Ultimate Editions and microtransactions. I wonder what the future holds. Are we going to get Grand Theft Auto 6 that's $100 just for the base regular edition of the game? We're going to find out. Alright, have a good one.